Hi, this is Dan. I hope you're doing really well. Today I'm going to show you a few things that you might want to consider if you're buying a bass or adding to your collection. I'm mainly going to talk about what things to look out for in a bass, the different types of basses, and what to use for different genres. Let's start off with what to look out for in a bass. Now, I think the number one thing for most people is what it looks like. For me, that comes way down the list. I'm more interested in playability and comfort. But let's just talk about this. This is, the first mass-produced bass, 1951. It's a Fender Precision bass. And this is a 1978. Whether you get an old one or a new one, this is what it looks like. It's a classic look. If you're doing live gigs or want to become a professional bass player, it's kind of a good idea to have a Precision. I've been to many studio sessions where it was pretty much required to have a Fender Precision, and other producers and musicians don't care, but some do. So this is a really solid choice to get. It's got a split coil pickup, the Fender Precision pickup here, and that's it. It does one sound. I'll talk about genre later, but you've got volume and you've got tone. Darken it up. But that's really what it does. It's a classic thing. Now, if I show you this bass here, this is a Zoot Funkmeister. This is a custom bass made by a great luthier in England called Mike Walsh. And this, this has got a quadruple A flamed maple top here. It's 5-string, 24 fret. It's a more modern bass. And perhaps looks-wise, you can say it's quite different to the Fender. So, ask yourself, are you into the sort of more classic, restrained look, or do you want something that looks a bit more modern and pretty cool like this? It's probably a good time, actually, showing you a very expensive, lovely custom bass to talk about budget. That's the main thing to think about. What is the money you have to spend? It used to be the case that you didn't really have much choice, but now you do. So have the figure in mind, and everything I'm talking about in this video will hold true for that. Because if you want a precision style bass, you could get a Sire bass, for example, or an Ibanez, or any kind of makes. They have the prototype basses they're going after. It's pretty much a Precision and a Jazz, which I'll show you now. So this is a Fender Jazz. This is a 1975. And again, whether you're playing a vintage one or a new one, this is what it looks like. It's got a neck pickup and a back pickup. They're single coil pickups. The knob on this actually has come off, so I'm going to take that off and just show you this. So this is pickups both on. That's, by the way, one of the things about vintage basses. You get things like that happening, but it doesn't really bother me. This is the neck pickup on its own. The back pickup on its own gives you more of the Jacko type tone. So a 2-pickup single coil type bass gives you a lot more versatility, and that's going to come into your decision making as well. Are you playing one type of music where maybe a Precision could get you by, or are you going to be playing a lot different? I'm going to go into that later about genre. You have brands like Mike Lull, Sadowski that make these kind of super jazz basses where you've got the 2-pickup thing and it's kind of more of an updated modern version of that original classic. Every bass so far has been a solid body, standard length bass. The scale length refers to the vibrating string length from the nut, which is this bit here where the strings kind of rest on, and the bridge. That's 34 inches for most standard scale basses. That Zoot I showed you is 34.5. The 1/2 inch makes the B string a little bit tighter, but scale length is something to think about. Now let me show you here a short scale bass. You can tell I'm a bit of a Fender fan. This is a Fender Mustang, Justin Meldal Johnson signature version, and it is, I believe it's 30-inch scale length. So if hand size is a consideration for you, you think there's a bit of a stretch on a bigger style bass, then it's a really good idea to start on this. Mike Kerr from Royal Blood is a brilliant bass player. He plays a Fender Jaguar bass, and he says that he can't really play anything else like that. That allows him to play all those cool riffs that he does. So do not think that just because it's smaller, it doesn't sound good. I'll show you a Hofner now. This is your classic Beatles bass. This is a Hofner Club, which is basically the same as the violin bass, just with this sort of body shape. And again, going back to looks, I don't really like that violin type shape. So that's why I went for this, because, that influenced my thinking, the look of it. But listen to this. It doesn't matter that it's a shorter scale bass, it still has a big very bassy sound, perhaps even more so than the standard scale length ones I showed you before. So if hand size is a problem for you, you're thinking the stretch is going to be an issue on a normal bass, then think about short scale. Everything I've shown you up to now has been a solid body bass, which, as the name suggests, is just made of solid wood. This is a hollow body, and you get hollow basses with F-holes in them. And again, they have a different sort of, perhaps a woodier sound to them, and that's down to tone. If you're looking for the Beatles sound, you kind of need something like this, if you're going for the Hofner era of McCartney anyway. But if you're playing gigs, then perhaps I would suggest a solid body bass that's a bit more versatile. If you're going for versatility, then you're probably looking at a 2 pickup bass. This is a fretless bass guitar, and the lack of frets means you get this smooth tone. It's a lovely sound. I would say it's a bit more of a specialized thing. I would recommend getting a fretted 4-string really to start with. And then there's no reason why you can't just add basses to your collection, especially these days when you have very cheap basses. More of that later. Nothing else sounds like a fretless, so if you want to sound like Jacko, or you want to play ballads and get those really cool techniques and slides and things like that you can't get with another bass, then you might want to think fretless. This is a 5-string one I showed you before. And 5 strings these days you can have below E, which is a B string, so this one here. Or you can have like E, A, D, G, and then a C. And those basses are more suited to jazz playing and chordal playing. You'll find most professional bass players who are just working bass players, they'll have the one with the B string. Many players absolutely swear by a 4-string and they don't need that 5th string. Fine, go for a 4-string if that's the case. But if you're looking to be very versatile, or you are playing music that does go below the E, then 5-string is something to consider. A 6-string has the low B and the high C, and that gives you a lot more versatility. If you think about it, it has got 4 strings. It just is a 4-string bass, like in the middle. So it doesn't sound exactly like a 4-string. Just because of the different dimensions, you're not going to get the same sound. That's why these passive 4-string Fenders, passive means no preamp on it, that's just a classic sound. But this one, you can play chords on it, you can play high stuff on it. The C string, it's very thin, so it sounds quite thin. So for some people, that tone is just absolutely not what they want. For other people, it opens up the range of the bass and you can play all kinds of things with that. Again, I think this is a little bit more of a specialized type of bass. It's a bit harder to play. So I would probably recommend going to that 4-string, and then if you're interested in what this bass can do, going to that. There's no such thing as I'm a fretless player, I'm a 5-string player. You're just a bass player, you're just a musician, and you can move between these basses with ease if you have decent technique. This is actually the last bass I want to show you, which is an acoustic bass guitar. This one's plugged in, so it's an electro-acoustic actually. This is not something that a lot of players play live, but it's an excellent thing to just have around just to practice. It's a tiny bit more difficult, I think, to play than a solid body, which is a good thing. So when you're practicing, very good for fingerstyle. Perhaps not slap, but you can really get your practice down, and then when you go back to your electric bass, it's going to feel a little bit easier to play. You can, of course, use these for gigs. It's specialized. So as you can see, some of the basses I've shown you, you probably can't use in very many situations. Whereas the solid body fretted 4 and 5 strings, you can use in a lot of different situations. Let's take a minute to talk about different basses and different genres. If you're playing soul, Motown, R&B, anything that's old school, then a Fender Precision plus flat wounds, that's just your combination. Just get that and be done with it. Pino Palladino uses that in lots of modern styles of music as well, so it's not confined to the past. That's a very classic combination and it works brilliantly. If you want a little bit more versatility, I would go for a Fender Jazz configuration, the 2 pickup thing. If you look at session bass players, the ones that do a bit of everything. They do film scores, they play for artists, they do theatre shows, West End in the UK, Broadway in the States. Then those players, very often, they will have a 5-string bass. Leland Sklar uses one as well. I mean, he's perhaps not a show player. He just plays for big artists, but he uses a 5-string. And all those players, that's probably the ultimate versatility. I use a 5-string when I'm doing most of my live work, because if there's one song that needs the extra low string, I have it there, rather than having to carry different basses. So working professional bass players tend to have a 5-string, alongside maybe 2 or 3 other basses that cover the different tones. This has been my main gigging bass since 2003. It's a Stingray 5. In terms of looks, it's a pretty classic thing. It's 5 strings, so it covers a lot of things. No one bats an eyelid at the look of it, although I did once do a Martha Reeves and the Vandellas gig, and I turned up with this 5-string. I didn't touch the 5th string once, and it perhaps should have had, I don't think I had a Fender Precision at that point, which is why I didn't use that. But, you know, this covered that gig, no problem. It's got a kind of punchy sound. You can play funk on it. You can alter techniques to do different things. It's not very versatile. It's got one pickup here, which is the main sort of con of the bass for me, but I've got that Zoot now that can do lots of things as well. And that's the thing. I'm thinking about looks, I'm thinking about what it can do, but also how does it feel? I'm just used to this, and it just feels really good. Nearly all the basses I own are actually quite expensive. I don't have a Sire, which is a make that a lot of professionals are using now. They're really, really cheap, and they're really great sounding basses. This isn't paid or sponsored by them in any way, but I really recommend starting off on something like that. Vintage basses, there's a make called Vintage Basses. They're really cheap and good. The Bass Center do amazing basses. They ship around the world. Cheap and amazing. I think we're in an era where you can get that now. You can get very good quality basses that are based on, you know, classics, and they sound great and they look great. This is the closest I have to a cheap bass. I bought this for about £350 last year, and I did it up a bit. It's got DiMarzio DP126 pickups in it. And did I do anything else to it? I just got it plecked, which was amazing. It just feels really, really good. And doing it up really, really helped. The action is the distance between the bottom of the string and the top of the fret. And if you get that sorted out to your playing style to make the bass feel good, you know, get good strings that you like. I'm using Elite on here. I think they're the Stadiums, the stainless steel. You can just have it. Now I like the sound of it. It's slightly versatile because I've got the P bass. I got the jazz bass pickup. But I mainly have it both pickups, and I just like that sound. PJ basses, where you've got a precision and a jazz, then really neither one thing nor the other, but I just like the sound of this bass. It's cheap. It's the one I use mainly for YouTube lessons, but I also do sessions with it as well. And this goes back to the budget thing. You do not need lots of money these days to get a bass that you absolutely love. This is probably my favorite one to play out of everything I have, so it just goes to show I wouldn't have found this bass had I not gone to different shops and just tried something out. I really wasn't expecting to buy this. That's what I think you should do if you really can. Make a day trip. Just go somewhere that's got a good range of basses. Try a few things out. Try a few different strings as well if you can. You know, flat wound, stainless steel. See what you like. And it's only when you get your hands on a bass that you'll know what's kind of speaking to you. So my main tips really are to have a very clear budget in mind. Get yourself into a few different shops to really find out what a bass feels like in your hands. In the shop, you can ask for a discount, you can ask for a spare set of strings, and you can make sure the bass is set up. So if it's a decent shop, they'll do all those things. Failing that, if you really are in the middle of nowhere, then if you're in Europe, Thomann is great. And you know, you've got Sweetwater and all kinds of different amazing online retailers where you can be sent a bass and actually usually send it back for free and just try it out that way. It's obviously a bit more of a faff to do that, but you can do that. I hope that video has given you a few tips about what to look out for. You don't need as many basses as I have. I do lots of different sessions, plus I just love basses anyway, but I do use most of these basses quite a lot. You really can get by with just one bass, like something like this would be perfectly reasonable. If you really want to be a lot more versatile, then get a 5-string, and that's the only bass you need, you know. So don't look at other people with lots of basses and think that you need that. You absolutely don't. It's what kind of music you want to create, what's the sound you want, and you can just start to think about it more sensibly that way. If you have any questions, do let me know. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.